Hey guys, Ben from Living Survival, and this is a Baofeng radio. It's got a fancy little light up top, it's got a few features, and it looks pretty cool. And that's the end of my review. Alright, so all joking aside, ham radios such as the Baofeng are fairly handy to have in a survival situation. But I know the question that everyone is asking. What does it do? How do I use it? And why is it beneficial for me? Ham radios such as this Baofeng are very useful for pulling in weather and public safety such as police, fire, and EMS in your local area, which is very handy in a survival situation. Some radios such as this UV5R Plus have FM, so you can pull in FM radio signals, and then of course you can use it as a ham radio. If you want to communicate on a ham radio to other ham radio operators, you do need the license, but there is no license required in an emergency situation. There is no license required just to scan frequencies and to listen in on things such as public, fire, EMS, and police. More times than not, in a survival situation such as a natural disaster, things like cell towers and phones can go down, but radios will still continue to work. So instead of just doing a tabletop review, I'm going to show you how I use it, how to program it, and what it can do for you. So the model I have here is the UV5RA Plus. Now there are certain variants of these Baofeng radios. The UV5R is probably the most popular. So this being the UV5R Plus, basically it just got a cosmetic upgrade. The older one looked similar to this BF F8 Plus. So you can see here just a little bit of cosmetic differences, and that's really about the only difference in the variants is the way they look. The UV5R also comes in camo and a bunch of other colors. This one also did come with a little bit of an upgraded antenna. You can see it's a little bit larger there, although there really is no difference in picking up local frequencies. At 5 watts, you're going to be limited to just your local frequencies with what you can pick up, and then your local Noaa weather frequency as well. They do have higher 8 watt models now, and that will extend your range somewhat, but with a little radio with this, especially with the supplied antenna, like I said, you're really going to be limited to what's local. Even though this is the UV5RA and this is the BF F8 Plus, they are very similar in their design, construction, batteries, clips. They have the light on the top, and the buttons and programming are very similar. I believe this one just has a few extra menu options, and we'll go through those in a moment. As far as the displays go, you can get them in different display colors. You can set the color differently, and then you can see on this BF F8 it is the blackout version. So the screen actually goes blacked out, which is pretty cool. The things that'll come with your radio are, of course, the cradle charger that you would just set it in to charge, an instruction manual, and then most of them will come with a single ear headset as well as a lanyard. So the first thing you're going to want to do is familiarize yourself with the operation of the radio. Now the manual is going to help you a little bit and define what the individual menu settings are, as well as what the buttons on the outside of the radio will do. So let's get into what not many other reviews show you, and that is how to quickly program it and what can you use it for. So the first thing that we can program into our radio is the Noaa weather stations. So you can go to the Noaa weather website and you can select your state and then your site name in your state, and I'm just going to select Detroit here, and then it will give you the frequency. So we can turn our radio on and we can type in 162.550 just to make sure it works.
Tri-Cities. It was mostly sunny with a temperature of 71 at Grand Rapids, 73.
So I know that weather frequency works for my area, so I'm going to go ahead and write that down and we can program it in later. The second thing that I like to program into my radios is my local police, fire, and EMS. And the way you can find that out is there's a great website called radioreference.com. We can go in here and we can look up frequency database, or we can look up the amateur radio database. Now amateur radio would be if you have your ham license and you want to look up other users, you could use that database. But since we're not using it to transmit, we're just using it to receive, we can just pull up the regular frequency database. Then again, we can select our state. I'll select Michigan. and it's going to give you a county listing, and then it also will give you some statewide stuff such as Department of Transportation, Michigan State Police, DNR, Red Cross, things like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose a metro area. I'll go ahead and select Detroit here, and it's going to break it down by county. I can go ahead and click Oakland County. And then you're going to get everything related to Oakland County. So we have municipalities and districts, EMS agencies, schools, colleges, federal agencies, airports, business, recreation. You can literally dial in to anybody that's using these frequencies to transmit and listen in. Now keep in mind you're going to have to be close enough to the repeater, and with the supplied antenna, that means you're going to have a fairly limited range. So for police and fire, we can click on municipalities and districts, and it's going to break it down by city or district. And you could see here, if I were in Birmingham, they have police dispatch, fire dispatch, public works 1, 2, and 3, and 4. If we scroll down here and look at some other ones here, we can look at Madison Heights. They have public works, fire, and parks department. Milford Police, Milford PD, Milford Fire. So you can just select your area and then test those frequencies and write them down if they work, and we can program them in later. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you turn the radio on is reset it back to its defaults. So we can do that by hitting the menu button. In the menu here, you can see that when you hit menu, it says 0, and then we can go through the different menu options. I believe this one goes up to 40, so we can just go the other way here and we can reset all. We want to hit the menu button again, then menu button again to confirm it. It's going to go ahead and reset back to defaults, shut the radio off, and turn it back on. Now if you heard that there, you could hear that it was in Chinese. So the next thing we're going to want to do is go back into the menu, and we're going to go up until we see the language menu option, which I believe is menu 14. So it's in Chinese. We want to hit menu again, and then our up and down arrows, and we can select English, menu again to confirm, and then we can exit out. So now the radio's been reset and we're in English. Now you're going to want to familiarize yourself with what the buttons on the radio do before we get into any programming. So on the left hand side of the radio here, you have buttons that you're mostly going to just use for transmitting. I just receive, so I don't use the call button or the push to talk button. And then you have a monitor button which can bypass the squelch and allow you to just monitor that frequency. The call button also works to get the radio into FM mode. For example, here I can just press it and it will switch over into FM. And then you could just program in any FM station that is local to you. So that's pretty cool that it has an FM radio built into it as well. The monitor button is also how you access the light. So if you press it once, it will just come on, press it again, and it'll go into strobe mode. Helpful for emergencies or being located. And then of course the flashlight is very helpful at night when you can't see anything. On the front of the unit here, you have your V/M button. All that does is it switches in between basically manual mode and channel mode, or frequency mode and channel mode. So if we get it into channel mode, the up and down arrows will go in between any frequencies that you happen to have programmed in. I believe this one will hold up to 127 frequencies. If we hit it again, then it would just step through the different frequencies, just like using, your AM FM radio. It'll just go up and down basically through the frequencies. A and B swaps it from the top line to the bottom line, so you can have an A channel programmed in and a B channel. The band button here just swaps between the two bands, since it's a dual band radio, on A, or we can go down to B and it'll swap between two bands on B. Another thing about storing into memory is you can't store the name manually. If you want to name your stations or your frequencies, you would have to use the software, and then you can order a cable, a USB cable, that will allow you to use either the Baofeng software or software called Chirp that will allow you to basically load in frequencies and names instead of having to do it manually. But I generally will just have a list that I keep with me of the frequencies, or I'll store them into memory and then I can just arrow through them for my area. Down on the bottom you have your menu button, your exit, your arrows, and then some numbers, and then those numbers also have little shortcuts. So for example, if we wanted to change the squelch setting, we could just hit menu and then 0, and it'll go directly to the squelch menu, which is number 0 on the menu. Once we're in the menu, you can basically just hit the up and down arrows, and you can see there that it's just going through the menu options. As you saw when we reset it, it has a total of 40 menu options on this particular radio. So if we go through them, we have our squelch setting. Generally, I will keep that at 1. So I'm going to go ahead and change that down to 1. Menu again to confirm it. And then we'll go to the next step is how far the basically the arrows will go up or down when you're on a frequency. So for example, if we have it at 2.5, this is just going to jump by 2.5 when I press the up or down arrows. Also, if you hold down the scan button, it will go ahead and it'll scan through those frequencies, and the step amount that you have set is the amount of step that it's going to do when scanning through the frequencies. If you find something, you can go ahead and hit exit. It will pause on whatever it finds, but it'll continue if you don't hit exit. So we can see that there's nothing really broadcasting, just some noise on this one. You could change your squelch settings and it wouldn't even pick up something like that. It's basically just you know, how you want to set it up. So we can go back into, I'm going to get off that channel there. We can hit menu again, and then we can go into our transmit power. Generally, I will put that at low. There's really no reason that I find to be in high. Generally, you could put it on high if you're having a hard time hearing, you know, someone you're transmitting with. But since I only receive, we can just go ahead and we can leave it on low. And then I'll go ahead and confirm it, and it's saved in there. So now we have our squelch at 1. We have our step at 2.5. I'm actually going to change that to 25. 25, we'll confirm it. And then we have our transmit power on low. Save is basically battery saving options. We can go ahead and leave that at 3. Voice operation or voice activation, we want to leave that off because we don't have the headset on. Wide or narrow band, we can go ahead and leave that at wide. This is basically the backlight timeout. So right now it's at 5 seconds. So after 5 seconds, you can see there that it times out. TDR, honestly, I'm not really familiar with what that does. It says in the menu here that it's dual watch or dual reception. Menu. Again, I don't mess with it. You can turn your beep on or off. Your timeout or transmission timer, you can set this to time out after a certain amount of time. Then starting at menu option 10, these are all for programming in if you were transmitting. So we can go ahead and leave all those at off. Then we get to our language, that's menu 14. Then there's going to be several other menus, including 15, 16, 17, 18, several different menu options in there that basically, again, is going to be just if you're transmitting with the radio. And since we're not transmitting, we're just receiving, then we don't really have to worry about those menu options. Different frequencies, you can change the mode on A and B, whether you want them to list the frequency, or we can have them list the channel. If we had it programmed in, it would put the number there, or if we had the name programmed in, which again you can only do with the software, you can't do it manually, it would show the name on the A and B setting right here. It would just show a name or the channel number. I just have them both set to frequency so that I can just see the frequency that I'm on. Busy channel lockout, I leave that at off. Auto lock is off. If you want to lock the radio, you can do that with a quick press of this little key here. We can hold it down and you can see the little lock symbol there, and that will lock the radio so that you can't press any of the buttons accidentally. We can go back into the menu here. Number 25 is basically our shift of direction. Again, you're not going to really need to know that. As well as offset, not going to really need to know that unless you're transmitting. So memory channel, here's how we program in our channels. That starts at 27, and 28 is how to delete one. So we have memorize channel 27 and delete channel 28. You can change the different LEDs for transmitting and receiving to all different colors here. Number 32 is alarm mode. We can just leave that on tone. You can switch between UHF and VHF band. You're usually going to just leave it on the VHF. Menu 34 has to do with dual mode and A and B channels. I'm not honestly sure what it does. Menu 35 is tail elimination tone. So sometimes if you're listening to police or fire or something, you'll notice they stop talking and then the radio will stay on for like 5 seconds. That's that tail elimination tone. Basically it lets the other radio know that they've released the press to talk button. Menu 36 and 37 again have to do with transmitting. So since I only receive, I really don't need to mess with 36, 37, 38 or 39, and then again we get to 40. So if you're just going to use it in the capacity that I use it, where I'm just receiving and not transmitting, those are really the menu options that you're going to want to know how to use. Basically we want to know how to switch between our A and B channels. We want to know how to program them in, and then as I showed you earlier, how to find the particular frequencies that you want to program in. So let's type in a frequency and then store it into memory. So one of my frequencies local here is 423050. So we can wait and see if we hear anything on there, but I happen to know that it is a valid frequency for my area. So if I want to store that in, I just hit menu, and you're going to want to go into menu number 27. Menu 27 is memorize channel, menu 28 is delete channel. So we want to go to memorize, hit menu again. Then we can select the channel that we want from 1 to 127. I'm just going to put this one at 1, and we hit memory again, or menu again.
Transmitting memory.
Then 423300, which is another one. And I could go ahead and store that into memory. So I'm going to hit menu again. I'll set that one as number 2.
Receiving memory.
So saved in there, then we can go back out. I'm going to type in another one, 424750. And we can save that one in. So menu,
Memory channel.
channel 3. You have to wait till they're done, and then it'll receive it in. And I'm going to program in one more here, 422577, and I'll go ahead and store that in.
Memory channel.
Under number 4.
Receiving memory.
So now I have menu 1 through 4 saved in. So then, as long as we're on channel mode, I can go through my 4 channels that I have programmed in. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the UV5R, one thing that I found frustrating without using the software is the ability to program in the weather. It basically won't let you program as long as they're transmitting, and since the weather pretty much transmits non-stop, I was unable to program in or store in my weather channel. I can, however, do it on my BFF8. So to show you what I mean, I can switch, make sure I'm on the A side here, make sure I'm in frequency mode. I can type in my weather channel, which is 162550. And you can see the light comes on because they're transmitting. Now if I go into menu and I try to save that, menu 27, memorize channel, I want to put it, let's say, on channel 0. It won't let me store it in. So I know you could do it using the software, but I haven't found a way to do it manually on the UV5R. So if anybody knows a way to get that done without using the software, I would love to know. I can show you the same thing over here on the BFF8 Plus. If I type in the weather channel here, 162550,
mostly sunny until 5 p.m., then partly cloudy.
you can hear that the weather is coming in. Now if I want to store this, menu, we can go to 27, memorize channel. We can put it into channel slot 0. This one will allow me to do it. It'll save it in. So I'm not sure if that's just a firmware difference between the two, but like I said, there are minor differences between the two radios, and that is one of the differences that I have found, is that I'm unable to program the weather into here because they transmit non-stop. So if we wanted to delete out a channel, it's just as simple. We can go into menu number 28, and we could delete whatever channel we wanted. We can exit out because we're not going to delete the channels. So as you can see, very easy to manually program, and of course if you have the software, basically that just downloads what you have in the radio. You can make the adjustments, you can add in the names, and then upload it back, and it'll store in the channels using the software, which is fairly handy. So if I just want to scan through some channels, I can go ahead and I can hold down the scan button, and it's basically going to scan, and depending on your squelch setting, it's going to pick up anything that it can hear. It'll pause on it momentarily, and then if you want to stop the scan, for example right here, it picked up something, I can hit any button and it'll stop the scanning, and I can listen in on what it is, or store it, or write down what I think it is based on what I hear. Now the scanning is going to scan based on your step, again like I told you. So if we want to do a little bit higher scanning and not necessarily skip through the you know, at 2.5 we could switch it to like 25 or 50, and then it'll scan much quicker, but it's not necessarily going to pick up these individual frequencies. Like you can see that this is .750, so if I switch it to 100, it'll go 850, 950, so on and so forth. So generally I'll leave mine at about 25, which is where it's at right now, and so when I scan, I can scan by 25 at a time, and you can see it just goes through 25 at a time there, and it'll stop on anything that it picks up. So that's really all there is to programming this radio for receiving things like weather and your local fire, EMS, public works. You can even get hotels that are nearby, schools that are nearby, fast food restaurants that are nearby, and those are all on radioreference.com, or you can just do a Google search for frequency database and you can find some other cool frequencies. Just keep in mind you have to have the power to receive it, and these little antennas, you know, don't go very far. I know when my power was out during an ice storm, I was able to listen to the local crews and hear where they were about the city and what they were doing about all the downed trees and power lines. So things like that will keep you in the know in a survival situation or a natural disaster, and then also you can transmit in the event of an emergency. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed that video today on the Baofeng UV5R. Like I said, there's a couple different variants, but they're all fairly similar. Programming them is fairly similar. You don't have to use any software. You can manually program them as I showed you. Now if you wanted to just scan those frequencies, a dedicated scanner is probably going to be more handy because it's a lot faster and it can go through and scan a bunch of frequencies at once. The ham radios are a little bit slower, so it's best to just look up your local frequencies and either program them in manually and remember the numbers, or you can use software such as the Chirp or the Baofeng software to actually program the names into your radio. They're very minimal and lightweight, and they don't take up much room in your pack, so I do think it's very advantageous to have one of these in your bug out kits or survival kits. As I mentioned, the way they come with the stock antenna, you're not going to be able to receive signals that are ultra far away. You're not going to be able to transmit ultra far away, but you should at least be able to pick up local weather for sure, if not your local frequencies for police, fire, and EMS. Now I'm going to leave a link below to where you can pick up one of these radios at a special price from GearBest. Just keep in mind that they are an international company, and although they do offer free shipping, the free shipping is ground, so it can take from 2 to 4 weeks to get to you in the States. So hopefully this video was useful, and if you are going to pick up a ham radio, I suggest you just get in there and play with it. You'd be surprised at how helpful it is and how fun it is to actually listen in on what's going on around you. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up. Leave me some comments below. I do always try to respond to each and every comment that comes in. Please share this on your social media to Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. And as always, guys, subscribe for more videos.